I'll be taking you through the process of how to draft and cut the trouser with an elastic band as the back. So if this is the first time you are checking on this channel, I'm planning to click on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that whenever I drop the video on how to couple the trouser, you will be notified. And then another thing you can as well do is to help me click on the like button so that a lot of people will be able to, YouTube will be able to show this video to a lot of people, and they also will be able to benefit from it. So please let me hit the like button. So this is the measurement we are using for this training. The length is 34, while the waist is 28, the thigh is 22, the nail is 16, and the hem, which is the bottom of the trouser, is 6 inches. Is 6 inches. So this is the half of it, and the circumference now is 12. But this is the half of 12 now is 6 inches. So now let's proceed to drafting process. So the first thing to do is to lay your material in 2 pieces like this. Is to lay the material in 2 layers, and make sure you cut this side straight. Make sure it's straight, and the extreme edge here, make sure that the line there is as well straight. So the first thing to do is to mark 1 inch, 1 inch, and then you roll it. Then the next thing to do is to apply the length measurement. The length is 34. So apply the length measurement, which is 34. Then you roll it. The next thing to do as well is to add the folding allowance, which is for the hem of the trouser. That should be 1.5. 1.5. Then you roll that as well. So the next thing to do is to get the crotch line. So if you are yet to know how to get the crotch line, please, I will drop the link of the video on how to get the crotch line in the description box below. So to get the crotch line area now will be the waist divided by 4. That 28 divided by 4 will give us 7. So the 7 now plus 1.5, so that is 8.5. Then you measure 8.5 here as well. So whatever your waist line is, just divide it by 4. Then you add sorry for that, you add 1.5 to it to get the crotch line. So, and if you need the comprehensive video on how to get the crotch line, check the description box below for the comprehensive video on how to explanation on how to get the crotch line. So the next thing to do now is to get the hip. So now the hip is 34. So the 34 divided by 4 will give us 8.5. That's 8.5. So that's for this hip now. So just measure 8.5 and you add 1.5 to it for the zipper and the side joining. So giving us what? Giving us 10 inches. 10 inches, and you roll it straight. So the next thing to do, apply 1.5 here, depending on the waist line, depending on the waist. So apply 1.5 depending on the waist. So the next thing to do is to apply the waistline here. So the waist is minus 1/2 inch here, minus 1/2 inch here. Then here now you apply the waistline, which is 7 inches. That's 28 divided by 4, 7 inches. So now you add 1.5 to it. 1.5. So just slant it here. So now the next thing to do is to get the center of this trouser. So just place the tape rule here, and whatever you have, you divide it by 2. Divide it by 2. So this is almost 6 inches. 6 inches. 6 inches. And you roll it straight. This is the center of the trouser. So with this method now, if you iron the trouser, to make the gator to fall at the center of the trouser, and this will make your trouser to lay perfectly well whenever you finish ironing it. So now the next thing to do now is to get the nail line. So the nail line, so this is a measure from the M line to the crotch line here, and you divide this by 2. Divide it by 2. Then you mark it. There are 2 methods on how to get this, but this is one method that I'm explaining here. So giving us 10.5 now. Just measure 2.2 inches upward. Measure 2 inches upward and mark it, giving us 10.5. Mark 10.5 here. So this is the nail line for this trouser. So that's the nail line now. So now for the M line now, the M is 12 inches. So half of a 12 is what we apply on the front side here. So and half of 12 is what is 6 inches. So to get the center of 6 inches now, divide the 6 inches into 2, giving us 3 inches. So just place that center here. Place that center here. Mark the 6 inches. And mark 6 inches here. Make sure that whatever you have, even if it is 7, divide 7 into 2. And make sure that center of 7 inches fall on this line, so that this gator will fall at the center of the trouser. This line now will make the gator to fall at the center of the trouser. So do the same thing. Take your hand upward a bit. 6 inches. 6 inches. And roll it up a bit. So now the next thing to do is to apply the nail measurement. The nail measurement is 16 inches, and 16 divided by 2 will give us 8. So 8 divided by 2 now, the center of 8 inches now is 4 inches. So just mark 4 inches here. Place the center of 4 inches here, and mark 8 here, and mark wherever it reach here. So now the next thing to do now is to connect the line together and then cut the trouser. So I'm using this cuff so that it will be easy for those that can't use a free hand. And if you can use free hand, you can easily use a free hand to shape it out. So now turn the cuff. The ½ inch here. So the next thing to do is to shape the upper part of the trouser. So now the next thing to do is to cut it out. This one to the front, and don't forget the type of trouser we are trying to cut is with elastic band as the back. So the easiest way on how to achieve this is what I'm about to show you now. So if you follow this process, you won't have challenging joining the trouser together. So now next thing to do, just take a ruler and roll here straight. rule here straight as well. So now on this one, we don't necessarily need to get the hip line for the back. You don't necessarily need to get the hip line for the back. So just measure here. You can add like 2.5. You can add like 2.5, and then you roll it straight. You roll it straight. Then you cuff here. So now the next thing to do is to check the thigh. Is to apply the thigh measurement. So the thigh now is a 22. So now to get the thigh measurement now, we leave half inch here. We leave half inch here as well for seaming allowance. So measure from there down to here now. What we have here is a 9.5. Is a 9.5. So for the back now, place it at the place you leave here. For the 9.5 now, apply 22. So this is a 22 now. So just mark 23 here. This is for the seaming allowance. So I believe you understand that. So the next thing to do, so measure 2 inches here. At the bottom line as well, measure 2 inches. So here, measure. So the wideness now, the wideness is that's 2 inches by 12 inches. So that is it for the band. Then the pocket flap, this for the zip. Then for the pockets now. So please, if you derive any value in this video, let me hit the like button and then you turn on your notification bell. Now, the next thing to do is to join the trouser properly. So after this, I will drop the video on how to couple the trouser properly. So thank you and have a blissful day ahead. Bye.